Hello and welcome to our 7-8 minutes of weekly Torah talk. With us today, David Helfand. He's from the Ziegler School. Hello and thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
We have a wonderful Parshat, Parshat Tisa. In this Parsha, we begin with the census of the people of Israel and with further instructions concerning the tabernacle and the Shabbat. The Parsha then proceeds to tell the story of the golden calf, Moses' plea to God, the splitting of the tablets into two, and the giving of the second tablets. The first pasuk of the Parsha says, "Ki tisa et rosh bnei Yisrael ifkudehem, venatnu ish kofer nafsho l'Adonai bifkod otam, velo yeh baim negev bifkod otam." When you take a census of the Israelite people according to their enrollment, each shall pay the Lord a ransom for himself of being enrolled, that no plague may come upon them through their being enrolled. So, there are many topics we can talk about in this parsha, but let's go to the most dramatic story in the parsha, the golden calf. And the obvious question here is, Moses is on Mount Sinai. The people are left under the guardianship of his brother Aaron, a leader. And yet Aaron doesn't stop them from building a golden calf. How come?
So I try to imagine myself, if I was Aaron in that situation, what would I do?
Was it easy for you to imagine yourself as Aaron?
I try to put myself into the Torah to imagine what it would have been like to be there and to be in the story.
Okay.
But when I think about what it would be like for Aaron, there are two emotions or feelings that come to mind. One is fear, and one is peacefulness, right? Fear because when Moses went up to Har Sinai, he left Aaron and he left Hor to kind of settle and rule and be in charge and take care of the homeland. Hor dies, and we don't really know much about him. He's never heard of again. And then Aaron's left alone by himself, which is a sense of fear. He's never been by himself without Moses or without somebody else helping him and pushing him to do what's right. And so Aaron understood probably that he didn't stand a chance against a crazy mob of Jewish people who were hungry and anxious and nervous and on the edge of their seat trying to figure out, where's Moses? He promised he would be back. He's not back. And so Aaron's fearful. He's afraid that they're going to take him over and that he can't wait for Moses to come back. But on the other hand, we know that Aaron is Ohev Shalom, Rodef Shalom, that Aaron is a lover of peace and a pursuer of peace. And so it begs for us the question of how far do we go for the sake of keeping everybody in the fold, for keeping everybody together. Moshe has a very clear line of how he does things. It's drawn in the sand. Aaron may not have had such a clear division of the way he did things. And Aaron's given this job, and he's given the rules, and he's given space to evaluate. And he's basically told, you're in charge. You take the reign. You're the one who needs to be here because I have to go up there and be with God. And so that's a really tough, thing to balance. Is it fear? Is it being peaceful? And I think on the other hand, you could also say that Aaron actually, he does something really impulsive. Right? He feels that there's some sense of urgency of not knowing when Moses is going to come back from Mount Sinai and be with the Jewish people from his time with God. And so Aaron says to the people, like, okay, you know what? Let's do this thing. And then tomorrow, Chag Lashem, Machar Chag Lashem, that tomorrow there will be a holiday for us to celebrate to God because Moses will be back. He'll be able to tell us what we're doing, and he'll be able to fix the entire thing. And I think that that's what Rashi argues, and I think that that's what kind of logic in Aaron's mind says, that maybe I can push this off one more day. I can spread them thin, just one more level, so that when Moses comes back, Moses will be able to deal with it. And I think that it's a lot of pressure upon somebody who hasn't been in that driver's seat, who hasn't been the one who really has taken charge and has been the driver, to be able to say, I'm not really sure what to do.
Right. So listening to you, I can come up with two possible options. One is that what we learn from this story is that Aaron is not really a leader. He's more a vessel for the leadership of the actual leader, which is Moses. He was appointed to be a mouth, a speaker for his brother. And when he's left all by himself, we discover that, he's a speaker, he's not the leader. That's one option. The other option is that, Aaron was faced with two basic options, both of which are bad. One is to have complete anarchy. This is an unruly people in the middle of the desert. Who knows what they're going to do? The threat of chaos and anarchy is quite dramatic. And the other possibility, also quite bad, is that they will build a golden calf and worship it. And between these two bad choices, he decides to go with the one that seems less bad. So again,
I would
not a leader or a chooser of one of two options.
I would say it's really, for your first point, I think it's really important for us to remember what Aaron's goal and job was, what his purpose was there for. Besides during the story back in Egypt as being the mouth or the hand, for that matter, of Moses, his brother, right? Aaron, once we left Egypt and once we started moving in the desert, he had a very specific role as being the high priest, with a daily prescribed list of things that he had to do and a way that he had to do it. And he had rules to follow that were specifically for him that nobody else could do. And so putting him in a role where he's normally doing a very specific task that's prescribed and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, to put him into a very different mindset to be able to do something different, I can only imagine that his mind is completely jumbled, right? But on the other hand, two bad decisions, going with the less bad, the Jewish people aren't necessarily the easiest people in the world to work with, right? I know this, you know this, we as Jewish people, we're constantly at each other's throats for good things and for bad things. And I think that it was a learning opportunity both for Aaron, for the Jewish people, for Moses, and for God. And I think everybody can learn something from this event, from this story, right? Moses needs to recognize his limits when he's away, right? And Aaron needs to recognize his limits when he's in charge and how much he can or can't do. God needs to recognize, okay, maybe it was a long time to have Moses away from his people, and they just witnessed all these miracles, and now they're stuck and they're like, we should have gone back to Egypt. We should have just stayed there. We knew what was going to happen. Here we have zero idea what's going to happen next. And so, yeah, the lesser of two evils perhaps is to let them build the golden calf and then suffer the punishment afterwards. But again, what I said at the beginning, I wouldn't have wanted to be an Aaron in this situation. He was set up for failure, unfortunately. And I think that...
Set up by whom? Set up by whom? Because, up until now, all I asked you about is Aaron. But let's ask a question about Moses and about God. Because Aaron was set up by them for failure.
Yeah. I don't think Moses and Aaron had a conversation. They didn't do their powwow before Moses went up to say, okay, listen, if this happens, do this. I wish that Yitro was still around from last week's Parsha to kind of give the pep talk instead of to Moses about how to rule the people and how to judge them, but tell Aaron, here's how to keep people civil. Here's how to keep calm. Here's how to build in some serenity for those times where it gets a little bit crazy. And God, I always wonder what it'd be like if Aaron had a conversation with God, kind of like Moses does, right? And to say, God, what do you want from me right now? Because if God is really the God that we think God is, then God could probably break away for a moment while Moses is, going back and forth and learning the Torah so hard and with such deep, kavanah, that God could have had a 2-minute conversation with Aaron and said, hey, buddy, it's going to be okay. I promise everything will be fine. Just breathe. Try to, just be present with everybody and be for them. And then I promise everything's going to be okay. Right. But we never see any sort of relationship. And, and you could ask the question, who is to blame for the golden calf? Is it Moses? Is it Aaron? Is God? Is the people? And it's one of those questions that I think we'll continue to debate and continue to find our own new chidushim or new innovations and thought on, as long as we continue to learn the Torah together.
Which I hope we all do this
Amen.
Week and in the coming weeks. David Helfand, thank you so much and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Shmuel. Shabbat Shalom. All the best.